In a galaxy filled with powerful alien races, the Galactic Council held great authority. They ruled with strength, using advanced technology and might to maintain order. Among them was a proud leader named Commander Xylar. He was known for his arrogance and believed that no one could challenge him. His latest mission was to oversee a distant sector where a strange signal had been detected. "Commander, we've picked up a mysterious signal from a small blue planet," a young officer reported, nervously adjusting his glasses. Xylar leaned forward, intrigued. "What planet is it?" "Earth, sir." "It's a primitive world inhabited by humans," the officer replied. The other members of the council chuckled. "Humans? They are weak and harmless. Why waste our time?" one council member scoffed. But Xylar felt a strange pull toward this signal. "What if this is more than we think? I want to investigate," he ordered, ignoring the laughter. The other council members exchanged worried glances but did not dare to oppose him. The commander gathered his best crew, including his top scientist, Dr. Mira. "We'll show these humans our power," he said confidently. Dr. Mira, known for her wisdom, looked uneasy. "Commander, we should be careful. There are stories about humans that suggest they can be unpredictable." "Enough! Prepare the ship for departure," Xylar commanded, waving his hand dismissively. The crew quickly gathered supplies and set off toward Earth, excitement and anticipation buzzing among them. As their spaceship approached the blue planet, Xylar peered out at the vibrant surface below. "Look at their cities, their technology." "It's nothing compared to ours," he said, boasting to his crew. Dr. Mira remained quiet, still worried about the implications of their visit. She had read tales of human bravery and resilience, but Xylar's arrogance clouded her concerns. The ship landed in a quiet town, surrounded by fields and forests. As the hatch opened, the crew stepped out, revealing their advanced weapons and shimmering suits. Humans stood in shock, staring wide-eyed at the aliens. Xylar raised his voice. "People of Earth, we are here to show you our power. Bow before us or face the consequences." The humans exchanged fearful glances, unsure of what to do. But one young man stepped forward. His name was Jake, a local mechanic known for his resourcefulness. "Why should we bow to you?" he shouted. "You may have your fancy weapons, but we will not submit to anyone." Xylar was taken aback. "This one dares to defy me?" He laughed, thinking the humans would quickly fall in line. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," he said, his voice full of confidence. But Jake refused to back down. He looked around at his neighbors, seeing their fear but also their growing anger. "Let's not be afraid. We can stand together," he urged. The crowd began to rally behind him, their fear turning into determination. "Your technology means nothing here," Jake declared, his voice rising. "We will fight for our home!" Xylar felt a shift in the air. The humans were not as weak as he had thought. "Very well, let's see how long your courage lasts," he shouted, his laughter echoing through the town. Dr. Mira watched in disbelief. "Commander, this is not what I expected. They are stronger than they seem." Xylar brushed off her concerns, focused on showing his strength. "Prepare for a demonstration! Show them our weapons!" As the crew began to set up their advanced technology, Jake whispered to his fellow townspeople. "We need a plan. We can't let them scare us. We can use what we have to fight back." The townsfolk nodded, inspired by Jake's bravery. They knew they had to act quickly before the aliens could unleash their power. Meanwhile, Xylar, filled with confidence, began to believe that he could easily conquer these humans. Little did he know that this would be the start of a battle he never expected. In that small town on Earth, the clash of two worlds was about to begin. The mysterious signal that had drawn the aliens to this planet was more than a call. It was a warning. As the tension grew, the humans prepared to show Xylar and his crew that they should never provoke those they deemed weak. The sun rose over the small town, casting a golden glow on the streets. Excitement and fear filled the air as the townspeople gathered to witness the alien presence. Commander Xylar stood tall, confident that he could easily impress the humans. His crew, armed with advanced technology, prepared to showcase their power. "Today, we will show these humans that they should fear us," Xylar declared to his crew. They nodded in agreement, eager to follow his lead. Meanwhile, Jake, the brave mechanic, was busy rallying the townsfolk. "We need to stick together. They might think they can intimidate us, but we won't back down," he urged, his voice steady. The crowd murmured, uncertainty evident on their faces. Suddenly, Xylar stepped forward, raising his hands. "People of Earth, we come in peace. But you must understand, we are the rulers of this galaxy. You are insignificant." His voice boomed, echoing through the town square. A mix of fear and anger rippled through the crowd. "We are not insignificant," Jake shouted back, stepping forward. "You may have advanced technology, but that doesn't make you better than us." Xylar narrowed his eyes, surprised by the boldness of the human. "You dare to challenge me? You will regret this." He signaled to his crew, and they activated their weapons, which glowed ominously. The humans gasped, and fear washed over them. But Jake stood firm, determination shining in his eyes. "Don't be afraid! We have to show them that we will fight for our home," he shouted, trying to rally his neighbors. Seeing the fear in the eyes of the townspeople, Dr. Mira felt a twinge of sympathy for them. She whispered to Xylar, "Commander, maybe we should show a more peaceful approach. We don't want to escalate things." Xylar dismissed her concerns. "Peace? They need to understand their place." "Show them our power," he commanded, waving his hand. With a flick of a switch, the aliens activated their ship's weapons, creating a dazzling display of lights and sounds. The ground shook as energy blasts shot into the sky, bursting into colorful explosions. The aliens cheered, confident in their display of strength. But instead of being intimidated, Jake saw an opportunity. "We can use this to our advantage," he yelled to the townsfolk. "Let's show them we can fight back." With that, Jake led a group of brave townspeople to their garages and workshops. They gathered tools, machinery, and anything they could use as weapons. They built makeshift defenses and traps, determined to defend their home. Back at the alien ship, Xylar was caught off guard by the humans' boldness. "They're preparing something!" "What are they doing?" he asked, his confidence wavering. "They seem to be gathering tools and machinery, Commander," an officer reported, puzzled. "Foolish humans! They think they can fight us with tools? Show them the power of our technology!" Xylar shouted, but a hint of worry crept into his voice. As the humans worked, they shared ideas and rallied together. Jake inspired them to think creatively. "We may not have lasers, but we have our wits. Let's make them regret underestimating us." The townsfolk quickly built defenses using wood, metal scraps, and anything they could find. They set up traps around the town, preparing for the alien onslaught. When they were ready, Jake climbed onto a makeshift platform, shouting to his neighbors, "We are not alone! We have each other! Together we will show these aliens that we are not to be messed with." The crowd cheered, their spirits lifted. Xylar watched from his ship, surprised by the determination of the humans. He had expected them to cower in fear, but instead they stood united. As the sun set, casting a fiery glow over the town, Jake and the townsfolk took their positions, ready to face the alien threat. "Let's show them that humans are not weak," Jake shouted, and the crowd roared in agreement. In that moment, Commander Xylar realized he had underestimated Earth. This was not going to be an easy victory, and the battle between two worlds was just beginning. Little did he know that the humans had a strength that no technology could defeat, the power of unity and courage. As night fell over the small town, the air buzzed with tension. The townsfolk gathered in a central location, their faces illuminated by flickering lights from makeshift torches. Jake stood at the front, trying to calm their nerves. Fear was still evident, but so was a spark of determination. "Listen up, everyone! We have to work together!" Jake shouted, his voice rising above the murmur of the crowd. "The aliens think they can bully us. They think we are weak. But we are not. We are strong when we stand together." The townspeople nodded, their fear slowly transforming into resolve. A woman named Sarah stepped forward. "What can we do, Jake? They have advanced technology, and we have only tools." Jake smiled, encouraged by her spirit. "That's true, but we have something they don't. Our creativity and our will to protect our home. We can turn our tools into weapons. We can outsmart them." Excitement surged through the crowd as they started to brainstorm ideas. An old farmer named Mr. Thompson raised his hand. "We can set up traps. I've seen animals caught in snares. We could use that to slow them down." "Great idea," Jake replied, clapping his hands together. "We can build barricades and use ropes to create snares. If we can hold them off for a while, we might find a way to push them back." Inspired by Mr. Thompson's idea, others joined in with their own suggestions. A group of mechanics began to gather scrap metal and old car parts, brainstorming ways to create makeshift defenses. Another group of farmers collected hay bales and wood to build barricades. As the night went on, the sound of hammers and laughter filled the air. The townsfolk worked side by side, united by a common goal. They shared stories and jokes, turning their fear into determination. They were no longer just individuals, they were a team. Jake moved around, offering encouragement and suggestions. "Remember, we need to be smart. We can't fight them head on. We have to lure them into our traps." His energy inspired everyone to work harder. As dawn broke, the town was transformed. Barricades lined the streets, and traps were set in strategic locations. The townspeople felt a surge of pride as they stepped back to admire their work. They had turned their fear into action, and now they were ready to defend their home. But deep inside, Jake still felt a flicker of doubt. Would it be enough to face the alien invaders? He tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on the task ahead. "Today, we show them that we are not to be trifled with," he declared, and the crowd cheered in agreement. Suddenly, the ground shook as the alien ship descended. Xylar had returned, confident that he could crush the humans easily. "Prepare for a quick victory," he commanded his crew, eager to show them who was in charge. As the ship landed, the townsfolk took their positions behind the barricades. They felt the adrenaline pumping through their veins, ready for the fight of their lives. Jake stood at the forefront, heart racing, but filled with purpose. When the alien hatch opened, Xylar and his crew stepped out, weapons drawn. "Humans! You dare to challenge us again?" Xylar shouted, looking around at the prepared townspeople. Jake stepped forward, a determined look on his face. "We are not afraid. You think you can bully us, but we will fight back." Xylar laughed, confident. "You will regret this foolishness." With a sudden roar, the aliens charged toward the barricades. But as they neared, Jake shouted, "Now!" The townsfolk pulled ropes, triggering snares and traps. The aliens stumbled and fell, caught off guard by the unexpected defense. Chaos erupted as the townspeople fought back with whatever they could find. As Xylar tried to regain control, he realized the humans were more united than he had ever expected. They fought fiercely, refusing to back down. In that moment, Jake knew they had a chance. Together, they were strong. United, they could face any enemy. The battle had begun, but the spirit of the townsfolk burned bright. They would fight for their home, their freedom, and their future. The clash between the two worlds had ignited, and both sides would learn that underestimating humans could lead to dire consequences. The air was thick with tension as the two sides faced each other. Jake and the townspeople stood ready, hearts pounding and hands gripping makeshift weapons. The aliens, led by Commander Xylar, advanced confidently, their high-tech weapons gleaming in the morning light. "Let's show them what we've built," Jake shouted, raising a crowbar above his head. The townspeople cheered, their spirits high despite the fear lurking in their hearts. As Xylar's crew approached, the townsfolk triggered their traps. Suddenly, ropes flew up and several aliens stumbled, caught in snares. The humans cheered, realizing their plan was working. But Xylar quickly regrouped his team, shouting commands to break free. "Don't let them trap you! Fight back!" he yelled, anger flashing in his eyes. The remaining aliens adjusted their tactics, firing their energy weapons toward the barricades. The blasts illuminated the battlefield, and debris flew everywhere. Jake ducked behind a wooden barrier, barely avoiding a shot that struck nearby. "Stay low! Keep moving!" he called to his friends, urging them to stay on their feet and keep the pressure on. In the chaos, Sarah, who had been collecting rocks, stood beside Jake. "What do we do now?" "They are too strong!" she yelled, her voice trembling with fear. "We keep fighting! Remember, we have our unity. Let's use it to our advantage," Jake replied, determination shining in his eyes. The townspeople rallied together, launching rocks and sticks at the aliens, who were surprised by the human resistance. The aliens were used to easy victories and were not prepared for such fierce opposition. As the battle raged, Xylar ordered his troops to push forward. "They are nothing! We will crush them!" he roared. But with each step, the aliens faced traps that Jake and the townspeople had set. Some fell into pits dug in the ground, while others were caught in nets. "Keep it up! We're holding them back!" Jake shouted, his voice growing stronger with each passing moment. The townspeople felt a surge of hope. They were not just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for their home and each other. Just then, a large alien warrior broke through their defenses, charging toward Jake. The creature was bigger and stronger than the rest, its muscles rippling as it moved. Panic surged through Jake, but he steadied himself. "Together!" Jake shouted to Sarah and a few other townspeople nearby. They quickly surrounded the alien, using their numbers to their advantage. As the creature swung its weapon, they dodged and struck back with everything they had. With one final effort, Jake swung his crowbar, hitting the alien hard on the side. The creature roared in pain, stumbling backward. The townspeople cheered, emboldened by their victory over the beast. However, Xylar was watching the battle unfold, and his frustration grew. "Enough of this!" he bellowed, raising his own weapon. He aimed at Jake, ready to end the fight once and for all. But just as he pulled the trigger, Dr. Mira, who had been observing from the shadows, rushed forward. "Commander, stop! You can't destroy them all!" she pleaded. "This is madness!" Xylar hesitated, the internal conflict evident on his face. "They have humiliated us. We must show them their place." Mira shook her head. "But they are fighting for their home. We can't win by destroying everything. We can learn from them." Xylar's grip on his weapon wavered. He glanced back at his crew, seeing the uncertainty in their eyes. The tide of battle was shifting. Meanwhile, Jake sensed the moment of change. "This is not just about winning. We have to show them we are better than violence," he yelled, his voice carrying over the battlefield. The townspeople paused, glancing at each other. They saw the truth in Jake's words. The fight was about more than just defending their town. It was about showing the aliens that they were more than mere victims. They were humans, capable of strength, unity, and compassion. With newfound determination, Jake stepped forward, raising his hands. "Let's talk! We don't have to fight forever!" Xylar lowered his weapon, considering Jake's words. The battle had reached a breaking point. Both sides stood on the edge of a choice. Would they continue the fight, or would they find a way to bridge the gap between their worlds? The fate of their two civilizations hung in the balance, and in that moment, peace seemed possible. The battlefield was silent, tension hanging in the air. Both sides, humans and aliens, stood facing each other, weapons lowered but eyes still wary. Jake took a deep breath, knowing the importance of this moment. He stepped forward, hoping to create a bridge between two very different worlds. "Listen," he shouted, his voice steady and clear. "We have fought hard today, but we do not have to continue this way. We can find a better path, one that does not end in destruction." Xylar, still caught in the conflict of emotions, looked at Jake with narrowed eyes. "And why should we listen to you?" "You are just humans!" Jake knew he had to make his case strong. "We may be just humans, but we are strong when we unite. We protect our home, our families, and each other. You came to our planet thinking we were weak, but you see now that we are anything but weak." The townspeople began to murmur among themselves, feeling the weight of Jake's words. They had fought bravely, but the realization that their struggle could lead to something more profound began to sink in. Dr. Mira stepped forward, catching Xylar's attention. "We can learn from each other," she said, her voice calm but firm. "The universe is vast, and there is much we do not understand about one another. This fighting is not the answer. We can share knowledge, technology, and culture. Imagine what we could create together." Jake nodded, encouraged by her support. "Exactly. We all want to protect our homes. There's so much we can achieve without bloodshed. Let's be allies instead of enemies." Xylar hesitated, his mind racing. He was a warrior, raised to believe that strength was all that mattered. But something about Jake's words struck a chord within him. He had seen courage and unity in these humans, something he had not expected. "What do you propose?" Xylar finally asked, lowering his weapon further. The question was tentative, but it was a start. Jake felt a surge of hope. "We can establish a truce. Let's sit down and talk about our worlds. We can learn about your technology, and you can learn about our ways of life. We can help each other instead of destroying each other." The townspeople nodded, showing their support. They were ready to listen, ready to find a way forward. Xylar looked back at his crew, who were watching intently. He could see doubt and curiosity in their eyes. "You believe we can coexist?" he asked Jake, his tone softer now. "I do," Jake replied earnestly. "We're different, yes, but we share a common goal: to protect what we love. Together we can make both our worlds safer and better." Dr. Mira added, "This is a chance for a new beginning, not just for us, but for both our species. We can show the galaxy that cooperation is more powerful than conflict." Xylar considered their words. He had always viewed humans as weak and inferior, but now he saw their bravery and determination. "Very well," he said slowly. I will agree to a truce, but we must proceed with caution. We will not lower our guard completely. Jake smiled, relief washing over him. That's all we ask. Let's build trust one step at a time. With a nod from both sides, the weapons were finally lowered. The townsfolk and aliens slowly began to gather in a circle, exchanging wary glances but also tentative smiles. The first step towards understanding had been taken. As they sat down, Jake felt a sense of camaraderie building. They began to share stories about their lives, their cultures, and their dreams. The aliens spoke of their faraway planets, their struggles, and their victories. The humans shared tales of their families, their history, and what they held dear. As the hours passed, laughter replaced tension. The townspeople and aliens began to see each other not as enemies, but as allies with much to offer. Differences that once seemed so large began to fade away. When the sun began to set, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Jake felt a sense of hope. They had turned a potential disaster into a new understanding. Together, they could forge a new path, one filled with cooperation and shared knowledge. Today marks a new beginning for both our worlds, Jake announced, his heart swelling with pride. Together, we will face whatever challenges come our way. Together, we will thrive. The crowd erupted in cheers, a mix of humans and aliens celebrating their newfound bond. The battle was over, but a greater journey had just begun.